Hello, thank you so much for reviewing our Capstone project. As you can see, our project is called Mystic Quest. Our team name is Team Subject to Change. It's a bit of a running joke since we had a hard time picking a team name, so we decided to just call ourselves Team Subject to Change. Just to introduce ourselves, my name is Dallin Christensen. I have with me today Maggie Jensen and Tyler Smith. We're all part of this Subject to Change team. If you would like to learn more about us, you can follow these QR codes to our LinkedIn profiles. Of course, feel free to add us on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions after this presentation, feel free to reach out and we'd love to talk more about it.
All right, so our world is filled with conflicts of all sorts. This is international conflicts, racism, intercultural biases, and whatnot. And a lot of these conflicts are born from a lack of understanding or from misunderstanding. And we wanted to help mitigate the degree to which conflict is supported by this misunderstanding, or hopefully even stop the conflicts before they start. So we created a solution that Maggie's going to talk about in a bit to help alleviate this problem of conflict.
Perfect. So our solution, we know we can't reach everybody all at once, and ideally everyone would travel a lot, get to know people in other countries and other races and nationalities, and thus that would decrease the conflict. But while we're here in this spot, we came up with a smaller solution that could help individuals to learn more about other cultures. It's a combination of augmented reality, which is virtual objects in the physical space using the Microsoft Hololens, the Bing Maps software development kit in Unity, which is the Bing Maps 3D maps pulled into our app, and gamification, where we created a story. So an example of the gamification is we gave users clues of different cultural objects. They would go to these locations and click on different pins to find the objects. And if the description of the object matched the clue, they would add it to their inventory. If they got all 6 items, one from each country, they would win the game and be culturally educated. So our core outcomes here, the main things we were focused on doing were increasing world culture awareness and geography, exciting users' curiosity about those global cultures, and providing a really engaging way to learn. Our main goal is that someone would walk away from our app saying, I'm excited to learn about other countries, other cultures, and I feel like I know a little bit more than I did when I started.
So as we mentioned before, our app has a variety of components. I'll be talking to some of the technical design components. First off, like we said before, we use the HoloLens 2, which is a Microsoft product. It's an augmented reality headset. This allows our users to feel more immersed in the experience. And to do our actual application development, we used the Unity game engine, which allowed us to, again, develop for the HoloLens using C#, which is a programming language, and also a drag and drop feature that Unity is really built upon. So these 3 things working together were our main technical components that allowed us to actually build for augmented reality.
We also used the Bing 3D maps so the user could feel like they were sitting on top of the city. It actually raises different buildings to different heights according to how they actually exist. We also used 3D models so the users could interact with objects from those countries and feel like they were physically engaging with the cultural aspects we were teaching them about.
In addition to the technical components, we also had a couple of educational and gamification components, including the 2 that you see here. First of all, we had cultural descriptions. This was just really information about the countries, about the cultures. Here you see we implemented this with a page in each city. This one is Zurich, Switzerland. It speaks a bit to the culture of Zurich. What's in there? A couple of cool facts. Additionally, we had the game tutorial as part of a gamification component. Augmented reality, as we learned, had people who were very unfamiliar with it, and we learned that a tutorial to help those unfamiliar with the augmented reality technology was imperative, really, for this app. And there you see a picture of our tutorial. There was a cube that they could work with and play around with, and we in the tutorial we had them use skills that would be vital later in the game. In addition to the cultural descriptions and the game tutorial, we also had object descriptions, not just descriptions of the country, but also of culturally significant objects in the country. And this was to help the users dive even deeper into the culture of the city, really. And there was a description indicating the connection between the object and the culture. And that again was several times throughout each city that we had. Additionally, we had music in each of the countries from that country. It was really cool. So they could feel more of that cultural ambiance and feel even more immersed into the culture of the various cities. So
awesome. We wanted to make it really like a game. And so in order to involve the user more, we added a story. So we created a story around Dr. Charlie Chase. We stole the name from a couple of BYU anthropology professors and set up the story that he was searching for a treasure and got far along the path and then was captured, but he left clues for us to follow hidden in the cultural items around the different countries. One of the ways that we encouraged the users to pay attention to the story, was by indicating the story scenes using these arrows that would follow the user as they turned their head. So they always knew where to look in the story. We also narrated everything. We used the BYU Media Center where we could record audio of all of the country descriptions, object descriptions, and the stories, as well as give users instructions in different scenes of how to proceed. So now we have a demonstration. We'll just quickly show you a user who had never used the app before, going through different pieces of our application.
Okay.
Awesome.
Your first task is to click or select the cube. So I just chat about what my experience is like.
Yeah, just feel free to kind of like, oh, I'm clicking the cube. That didn't work. What didn't, you know?
Okay, click or select the cube. To select the cube, first point at the cube with your forefinger. And we'll, to indicate. It turns orange. Oh. Your middle finger.
Congratulations.
Oh.
Click the cube one more time to progress to the next stage of the tutorial.
Click. I think I clicked it. Beep. I clicked it.
In this part of the tutorial, you will become comfortable with manipulating objects. Again, we have a cube. This time, instead of simply clicking on the cube, you will move the cube around. To do this, pinch the cube again. Instead of letting go, maintain your pinch and move your hand around. Once you have moved the cube around for a bit, a blue menu will appear. The blue menu will have a button. When you feel ready to progress to the game, press the button.
Okay.
Up to this point, you have been selecting the cubes with a pinching method. For the blue menus, you will perform an actual pressing motion. Put your finger through the button itself, as if the button were actually there in the space with you. Once you press the button, you will continue to the rest of the game.
Okay, so I think I'm pinching it, so I tap it?
So to select it, you pinch it and then just move it around.
Whee! Oh, super fun. And that's all I'm doing in this, is I'm just moving it around. And then when I'm done, I progress, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it got bigger. Oh, you stay there. Okay. And now I'm going to click Progress to App. Okay. Charlie Chase.
Charlie Chase, a BYU anthropology professor, has gone missing. For centuries, academics have sought a lost treasure hidden in Central Europe. Dr. Chase, filled with curiosity and a passion for cultures, set out determined to find it and progressed further along the path to the treasure than anyone ever had. In order to find the treasure, he followed clues embedded in the cultures of several countries and created an encoded list for us to follow in his tracks. Unbeknownst to him, Charlie wasn't the only one searching. Too late, he realized he was being followed by a wicked organization, Viper, that cared more about finding the treasure for profit than for history. And right as he reached the treasure, he was captured.
Is that a person behind us? No?
We need to find Dr. Chase and the treasure before they both disappear forever.
Oh, there's something right
We
here.
need you to follow Dr. Chase's clues to lead us back to the treasure so that we can bring him home to his family.
Oh, sure. So I follow the arrow, and then I click Progress to App. Sure. Oh, there's my hand. This is really cool, guys.
We have provided you with the clue list that Dr. Chase sent to us, grouped by country, on the main blue menu under Clue List. Each clue corresponds to the description of a culturally significant object in that country. Use the Portals button on the main menu to navigate to the countries. In each city, you will see a map with pins that have cubes on them. Use the pinching motion to select the cube, which will zoom into a cultural location and reveal the cultural object. Read the description, and if the object description matches the clue from the clue list, add it to your inventory.
Okay.
The clues describe only one object from each location, and your inventory can only hold 6 objects at a time, so choose wisely.
Oh no.
If you're having issues with the map, select the Reset Country button from the blue menu. Once you believe you have found the correct objects, return to the home base, and select the Place Objects button from the inventory menu. We will use the information from the cultural objects to find Dr. Chase.
Okay.
Great. Now we're going to watch a quick implementation of our user interacting with one of the countries.
This one sings. This transportation holds its very own sting. Its own sting. It sings up the streets. Okay. That looks like the Colosseum. Which one looks like something that's singing? Maybe this one?
Michelangelo's David. David is a masterpiece of Renaissance sculpture, created in marble between 1501 and 1504 by the Italian artist Michelangelo. David is a 5.17 meter, or 17 feet 0 inches, marble statue of the biblical figure David. A favorite.
So is there relevance to where each thing is located?
Sometimes we didn't get around to the locations, so you can see.
Margherita pizza. A popular contemporary legend holds that the archetypal pizza, Pizza Margherita, was invented in 1889 when the royal palace.
Okay, not those two. So is there any, like, pattern to...
Fiat.
Oh.
Fiat Automobiles is the largest automobile manufacturer in Italy. It has received many international awards for its vehicles, including 9 European Car of the Year awards, the most of any other manufacturer, and are ranked many times as the lowest level of CO2 emissions by vehicles sold in Europe.
Okay. I think the Fiat is the transportation it's talking about. So I'm gonna add that one. Okay. Now I'm going to switch countries. I like that the clue list can stay open while I'm on the page. View portals. Let's go to Spain.
Great. There were a lot of things we learned from that video. We'll go over a couple of more of our takeaways from that a little bit later on. But now we want to jump into how we tested this.
Great, thanks, Maggie. So I'll be talking really quick about how we did our user testing and implemented our surveys throughout the process of our capstone. So our test, like it says here, focused on 3 core outcomes: education, excitement, and enjoyment. Again, we wanted people to learn something from this, not just play a game. We wanted them to actually gain some information, then be able to use it later in life. We talked about learning how to deal with conflict and be more understanding of other cultures, and that's really what we wanted here. We also wanted to be exciting. Of course, HoloLens is really exciting. Augmented reality is a really exciting field to be able to work with. So that's why we picked that. And then we also wanted our users to have fun. It was more about just feeding them information and hoping they retain something, but rather enjoying it while they do it. So we had 2 main iterations of testing. The first one contained 2 tests. We had sort of a benchmark, which was a simple PowerPoint presentation. We recognized that our target audience would be students going on study abroads or internships, and in countries that weren't their own, right? And we based our benchmark test or our alternative on that. So we had a scale of 1 to 5 with pre-survey and post-survey questions, but essentially we gave them a recording of a video recording of a PowerPoint presentation. We noticed that enjoyment and excitement both decreased from the pre to the post. So turns out after they watched the video, they were a bit less enjoyable and excited about what they were learning. But education increased, so they learned something, which is great. But the other thing we tested was our actual prototype. So we had them do a few simple tasks, like you saw in the video demonstration. We had them, check out some of the countries, try to find specific objects, And again, this really helped us since it allowed us to see how our target audience interacts with the app. We actually tested with the BYU marketing lab. And we were testing mainly with students actually around our age. So that was great. Same thing, we had a scale of 1 to 5 of pre and post survey questions. We noticed that enjoyment and excitement stayed relatively the same, but education also increased. So they learned something, which was great. But that was the first iteration of testing. The second iteration, go ahead,
just to
Maggie,
note,
please.
we also did 50%, 50 people on the benchmark and about 50 people on the AR prototype. So 100 people total testing each piece.
Great, thanks, Maggie. And then the second round of testing was just one test with our minimum viable product, or MVP. So this test included features like the gamification, the music, the audio narration, and a storyline. So all of our core components were really in there. We had the same pre and post questions, scale from 1 to 5, and we noticed an increase in all 3 of our outcomes. So enjoyment, education, and excitement all went up after our users actually tried this, our minimum viable product, which was really awesome and exciting for us. So again, here is a graph of the pre and post scores for our minimum viable product and the alternative, or the PowerPoint presentation. We noticed that the green bar is the HoloLens, and they actually went up from the pre to the post survey questions for all 3 categories, like I said. And then the alternatives, right, only one of them went up, the rest decreased. So we noticed that our HoloLens application was a great way to introduce education, excitement, and enjoyment all in one sort of aspect together.
Great, thanks, Dylan. We learned a lot of things about how to program in augmented reality. None of us had ever made a game before. And we learned that our users needed a lot of visual feedback. So even just from the videos, we noticed clicking and double clicking things. Users are used to seeing a lot of pop-ups that tell them what they have already done. And that was something that we didn't know we needed to implement as much. We also found they needed a lot of instruction. We had given audio feedback and audio instruction and a lot of instruction to read. But with augmented reality, we learned it was needed to show them. We had to have a video that would show them how to click things, how to move things, and just generally make them aware of what they could do in augmented reality.
Another thing we learned is the community for augmented reality was really helpful. We used GitHub since the Bing Maps software development kit has a bunch of code on GitHub. We actually ran into a problem that made us a bit stuck for about probably 2 or 3 weeks consecutively, and we were worried about having to change our project or pivot a bit. And we were able to reach out to someone, actually the general community, and someone got back with an answer, and it solved basically all of our problems with our maps not working. So that was a really awesome thing that we got to experience through the GitHub community. We also found it really valuable to actually test before we had a minimum viable product. Even testing certain components of our app allowed us to better plan for future iterations and future features that we could add to ultimately make the experience better for our users and help them to have more excitement, enjoyment, and education.
Another lesson that we learned, especially regarding project management for augmented reality, is building out the very granular tasks for the asset collection and creation. We had a lot of objects that we had to create, and having a plan in place, thinking through all the things that we needed, enabled us to get all the assets that we needed on time, to be able to implement them in our app, and even to use or I guess implement feedback that we had gotten from our first test. Being very granular with our task planning really helped us to get more done than we could have otherwise. And then our last lesson that we learned is that having multiple people learn Unity is really beneficial. We all learned a little bit of Unity, and whenever one of us came up against a problem, we were able to go to each other and get a new perspective on the same problem. And that was really helpful. It got us through a lot of roadblocks. And so these are the lessons we learned during our Capstone project.
Yep, looking forward, we'd love to take some time and try to see if we can turn this into an iOS app to make it a little more widely available. Right now, the app is available through us, one of us 3, or also in the HoloLenses on BYU campus. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you reviewing our application.